get a song stuck in your head that it just doesn't go away. It's very frustrating. Not gonna lie. Welcome and good evening. You're watching live from Fly on the Wall Productions on Main Street here. In-house, we are lucky to have former mayor Lucas Herring. Lucas, good evening. Welcome again to the Barre Beat. We always love you here.
Yes, we do.
We do.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely do. And we have the lovely Raylene.
Good evening, everyone.
And sitting in the hot seat is Rosemary Averill, who's running for Ward 2.
I am Rosemary for Barry right here.
Yep. And that's facebook.com. Rosemary for Barry.
Rosemary for Barry. Yeah.
All
exactly.
right. Welcome to the Barre Beat. This is your first time
Thank
on.
you.
Super excited to have you on. This is my I can't for clarity, I will not be doing the moderating of this. This will be falling into the hands of the former mayor Lucas Herring because I am Rosemary's cousin. So figured it would probably be best to have mayor,
Right, you can only
former
run
mayor.
the cameras and the mics. That's it.
The mics, and I'm also probably going to read some of the comments that come across unless you do.
Yeah.
So with that, I will let Lucas Herring take it from here.
Sure. So I'm just going to have a first question, and it's really just to get to know each other. So this is Rosemary's first time here. I do have a number of questions that I'm going to ask. She hasn't seen them. I had actually prepared them for a forum, so I'm going to tweak it a little bit since we're not in that format. But so since I have left Barre, I'm now over in Northfield, which I think I've said to people before. But I am still busy. So I'm still working with the Green Mountain Council for Boy Scouts. I am participating in the American Legion over there, where I started a cribbage league on Wednesdays. So Wednesdays are pretty full. I'm on the VORAC Grant Committee, which that's the recreation grant that is through the state of Vermont. Northfield was a recipient, and we're restoring some trails. I am now on the board of the Veterans Place over in Northfield, and I'm also a part of the board for the Northfield Observances, which is Labor Day. So those are some of the items that I am doing over there. I'm still a part of the Lions, the Elks, the Moutois, all those clubs over here too. I volunteer serving meals and doing things. But that's a little bit of what I've been doing. So that's about me, your moderator. And I do want to open it up to Rosemary so that she can let us know a little bit about her, what she's been doing, and tell us a little bit about her interest in city council.
Great. Thank you. Thank you both, Raylene and Lucas, for being here. I don't know either of you that well, so I think we all feel comfortable that it's kind of a neutral interview or session, and I'm glad about that. Rosemary Averill, born and raised here in Barre. It was an amazing time growing up in this community. It was incredibly diverse in its families, ethnicities. Everybody get along. It was just really super. It was a beautiful place to grow up in. I went to school here, graduated from Spalding. My parents couldn't really afford to send me to college, plus I was a bit of a rebel in high school, so it was good for me to just work for a year and figure out how I was going to go. I ended up working at National Life for 39 years. I went in as an intern, and I ended my career as the vice president of travel and conferences. And it was amazing in itself when you could climb the ladder without any college degree. And I love that company still for that reason. I retired in 2012. I ended up consulting for a company out of Atlanta, conference planning, and spent another 9 years traveling the world. It was amazing. Somebody suggested that maybe I wouldn't be a good problem solver. I can tell you, I did many events, 700 people, 550. My last event was in Dubai, 550 people during COVID. So we survived, and I can assure voters that I'm up to the task. As far as my current life, I'm on the Planning Commission. I'm also was just appointed to the elected to the Board of Civil Authority, and I am retired now for the second time, but officially for the last. And I want to give more to my community. I want to really work on advancing its progress, not necessarily advancing progressive ideas and actions. So with that, will be very grateful for your consideration, and I thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much. So the questions I'm going to be asking, I haven't shared any of these with actually anybody, because, again, they were going to be set up for a forum. I was going to try to email it out to everybody. But just so you know, the topics are going to be around policy, public participation, communication, funding items such as the FY24 budget, the TIF district, and ARPA funds. And the last question is going to be what I call a plus delta, which it's not a positive negative. It's really what's working and what can be changed. And that's a positive way of trying to say, the negative things that we can do better at. So on those items, the first one, it's a little bit about public participation, but it's also dealing with an issue that happened over in Montpelier. So if you look at the Montpelier Bridge, it says their council grapples with Whitaker's fallout, and it's talking about he came into a public meeting and he basically just went on and on and on. He was forcibly removed because they have information about how long that you can speak. And we do. In our statutes, it states that open meeting law allows for municipalities to set those time limits. So the time limits of other Vermont cities, and it's quoted in that article. And I use this as an example just because the mayor was not one of the people that was going to be a part of the forum, but it was just an example of policies that are in place. But it says Barre City does not have specified time limits during its public comments section at city council meetings, but Barre Mayor Jay Kemerick said that in an email to the bridge, I'd consider this as needed, and the open meeting law allows the chair to set reasonable limits. I usually jump in at 3 minutes, and if it's not germane to the item at hand. So I'm going to go back in time, June 15th of 2021. Council actually approved and adopted a rules of procedure, and Section 13, public comment, talks about that section explicitly, and subsection A says that the amount of time designated for public comment should not exceed 2 minutes, and that the order in which people shall be addressed to the council shall be controlled by the mayor. So the real question here is, Councillor Booten was a part of this process too. We try to have an onboarding process. We try to have those that were coming onto council understand what the policies were for the city so they can do their job better. So the question to you is, how important do you feel it is that members of city council be aware of their policies, follow them, and then correct the actions of others as appropriate if they're not following the policy? And the second part of that question is just, what would you suggest for improvements that might make that process better?
Wow. I was familiar. I did read a bit about Mr. Whitaker over the last few months, and I can understand. I think he was even a little unruly, as I recall. So that combined the action, I think. I'm fine with 2 minutes. I think school board does that. I've been tuning into the city council meetings, and I find that everybody seems pretty respectful of the time allowed for the people who want to speak. It seems to be very fair in how they select who they're going to have speak, who's going to go first. I've never really heard that there's any real issue with that. I think if somebody decides that they want to go beyond 2 minutes, I don't think they actually time it. But if they go on beyond 2 minutes, if it's making a reasonable argument or suggestion about something, I wouldn't be opposed to that either.
Okay. The second one is still related to policies. Second question here. So some of the most important duties of a city councilor is the adoption of policy. And for the definition of policy here, I'm saying actual policies, we adopt ordinances, we adopt charter, and all those are really documents that govern the city. So as part of that, February 15th of last year, I was still on council at that time. There was no action on the food vendor policy. That was one of the oldest ones that we hadn't addressed. To date, I looked back through the minutes, and Councillor Booten can correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I believe the only actions that were taken up was Councillor Booten asked about the animal and fowl ordinance, and there was no action that was taken on that, as well as the flag policy was rescinded because of the charter change that was approved. And I don't think there has been any other discussion on any other policies or ordinances as part of council. So if that is an important piece of what you're doing as a counselor, what policies do you feel that need to be addressed or updated for the city of Barre, and how much public participation do you feel is appropriate for those?
Well, I'm familiar. I mean, I actually did a little research on the charter and some, and of course, ordinance as well. I'm not sure actually about this. I'm sorry. I just feel, yeah, policies, absolutely. That's what we're there for. But I didn't know anything about the food vendors. I have no idea about that. But the other policies, I think, are well situated. I don't know, Michael, of any that are coming up that are of concern. Do you?
No, actually, we do not have any policies on the docket, and we haven't talked about any policies.
No.
We haven't talked about.
I mean, I'm sure if they arise, absolutely, bring them on. But it sounds like, and it looked like when I was reviewing them recently, that a lot of them had been either updated or added within the last couple of years, probably, Lucas, when you were still there.
Yeah, we had what I was self-imposing, and I was hoping this would be a part of the strategic plan moving forward, was a 5-year cycle where you would at least review all of the policies.
Look, yeah.
You don't have to do any changes if they aren't necessary, but it's actually something I used to do when I was on the school board too. So that whole process was to make sure if there are things that need to be changed, such as pronouns, that's something that was a cleaning effort that was needed. Do we need them in there? No. I mean, you can actually draft the language so it just speaks fluidly. Mm-hmm. So those are the types of things that you can look through in one swoop. Another one would be what is recently changed in the legislature for bills, and if that's something that affects how we are addressing our policies, we just want to make sure that that's reflected. Charter is a whole other ballgame because charter is technically statute.
Yeah,
so when
exactly.
that's passed, it's basically a part of the Vermont statutes and becomes actual law.
Right. I think we're fortunate, the city, to have Carol Dawes in that position of city clerk and treasurer, because she is really very in tune with what's going on in Montpelier. I think she does a lot of presenting to them about various topics, and so I'm sure that when things come up that need to be changed or discussed, she brings them to the table. Also, just as you're going through Election Day, I noticed there's been a little talk about charter, what other things needed to be changed, added, or whatever during the election process. So, but again, I think Carol's really invaluable to that process.
So I do get a comment here from Michael, just approving the police policies that Chief Brad did. And I know that you did speak to Chief Brad.
I did.
Do you want to?
Yes, of course. Yes, I was going to bring this up. I did have a meeting with Chief Vale. It was just a couple of weeks ago. I just wanted a better handle on, his style. I just wanted to get to meet him, number one, but also his style, what he feels are our challenges here. And of course, we did talk about the policing policies that he brought to the table and the advisory board worked on together and finalized, as I recall, as I believe they are final now. So that is a great thing to have as part of our policies here in the city, no doubt. And I was very impressed with him. We have challenges, obviously with drugs, with some of our homeless, which I'm interested in helping them as well. But certainly, he seems to be a great leader for the police department here.
I apologize. I'm going to get involved again. And Lucas will certainly remember this. Well, maybe remember the Kalia conversation we had years and years ago. So the policies that he instituted are actually Kalia policies.
Oh, Kalia, right.
Yep.
Yes, correct.
Yep.
So
He did say
just
that.
a side note for those that are viewing, there are different types of policies for the city. There are the ones that the council actually acts on, and then there are the ones that the departments have in place for themselves. I believe it's the police advisory that review the policies with the police department for that adoption, but they actually do not go to council for approval.
That's
So,
right.
correct.
Yes, thank
two
you.
different groups. Okay. So the next question here is talking about the different bodies of the city. Because there's been discussion. The latest packet that I saw the information in was January 3rd, and it was related to the number of volunteer organizations and the people that are in those positions or the vacancies. So the number of bodies of the city and the number of volunteers had reached a high point a couple of years ago. And according to the manager's information provided in the packet, the current makeup is about 79 positions, which were almost all filled at one point. And what they're looking at doing is reducing that about 40% to about 47 members. So the policy for appointment has also changed. That's one of the policies that were recently adopted in November of 2021. It's also been a little misstated that there was not a committee charge or task for the groups. One example, if I go back to those June 15 minutes of 2021, there was a presentation to council from the Recreation Committee, for example, and they provided what they were working on, what their charge is, and that was adopted by council. It was a part of a series of presentations from all of the different bodies that are appointed by the city council in order to give those committee charges and making sure that those were approved. So since there is this large discussion, and I don't think there's been a final outcome from that
I
either
don't think
yet.
so either. No.
Can you discuss your thoughts on what you need, what you think is needed for that structure for those different bodies and why?
Well, I tend to agree with the city manager and anyone else that agreed with him on this. I think every committee should have a charge. I mean, it just needs to have an official charge of what it is expected to do. Certainly, with the number of vacancies that there were, it seemed to make sense to consolidate the committees. I have no problem with that, as long as they're going to be similar topics and charges. As an example, what happened, I think it was last week. Unfortunately, Byrne Rose and Erica Real resigned from the ADA committee because they just didn't feel that the city is supporting them, giving them their charge. They continue to provide information about ADA compliant issues without any action by the council or the city. So it's unfortunate that happened. However, I think ADA is a requirement, so it seems as though we really should be dealing with that somehow. But back to the rest of the question. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for consolidation. We need to be doing effective work. It needs to be working. We need to have leaders in those committees that are able to carry the group and make things happen if that's a charge. So I guess that's I'm all for it. Did I answer your question, Lucas?
You did.
Or? Okay.
And kind of a follow-up on that because, again, there were 79 positions previously. There were some individuals that were appointed twice. And what I mean is they might serve on one or more committees.
That is true. It's yeah.
So recently that has been a discussion too. And by recently, I'll go back to last legislative session. Bill H-281 was an act relating to prohibiting candidacy for election for more than one office at a time. There's already some prohibitions in statute that say you can't fill 2 positions. There's a lot of positions out there that you can run for that don't have that restriction. So I'll make this more personal toward me. I don't take it personally, but I'm just saying me as an example. I was elected to the Barre City Elementary School Board and the Barre City Council concurrently for several years. I held the positions as well as on other boards in the city, like the Vermont Granite Museum. Any conflict or perceived conflict was noted at those meetings prior to any action being discussed, which is following the law. Barre City Council, as noted, has now also appointed several people to committees. They could have been on council and on the committee at the same time. So recently it was stated in the Front Porch Forum, concern about people taking away the opportunity for others to participate because we have a little over 8,000 individuals, and no one person should hold more than one office. So, giving those examples, we've done it with council positions, council on committees, more people on committees, people filling roles on school board and council in the past. Like, it has been a past practice. But I just wanted to ask you personally, do you believe that individuals should not serve on one or more board or council or committee? Or do you think that should be a practice that's okay?
Well, I think the vacancies we have on the existing committees is probably what started this conversation about combining them. As far as I think it would be great to just have committees is one thing. To have one representative on one, maybe 2 committees, but we have some that I think are on 4 committees or boards, and to me that sounds a little bit extreme. But maybe during this process of looking at the committees, how they're going to combine them, they're going to get rid of those vacant seats, which obviously they will be if they're going to reduce the numbers. Then, hopefully, it'll work it out. But I did read, I think it was Jonathan Williams' article about that, and I think it goes all the way around. I mean, it's a lot of people from different, persuasions is the way, they're parties that are filling seats that need to be filled. So let's see what happens when this next round of conversations come up, and I hope I'm a part of it.
Okay, thank you. The next 2 questions are related more toward the budget, but some of it is the public knowledge of what's happening with the FY24 budget. So just as an example, I went out to the city's website and I used the search term and I just put in budget. And what I found was the FY23 budget, but nothing on FY24. The information can be found in the council packet, though. If you go to the January 10th packet, the FY23 budget was presented previously, so last year, on CVTV, posts on social media, included in the monthly reporting that went out in the World paper, in addition to Dave Delcour's presentation in the Times. And the manager performed a road show to residents. Usually this would be to the local service clubs, and he would go to those locations. So to my knowledge, I don't know of any of those other things that have been performed this year.
He did do it on the Barre Beat.
On the Barre Beat. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I wanted to make sure I'm corrected, so I'm giving the correct information. But I don't know of those other presentations. Again, I sit on some of those different bodies like the Lions, which Steve used to present to. So regardless, I mean, there's oversaturation. There's making sure that residents are aware. What communication areas do you think should be used for items like the budget or items that are coming before council? And what would you do to make sure that those actions happened?
Interesting, because I've been going to the city council meetings, Zooming most of the time, and so I'm somewhat in tune what they've been talking about, obviously, as they were creating the budget. But I personally like to see, I want to be able to see what they're talking about. I didn't remember, Lucas, good for you that you were searching, that it was January 10th. And it's great that the city manager came on Barre Beat. That's great. And maybe aired out as well or not yet? I don't know. But
He did.
but people need access. They need to know what is in that 13 million and whatever dollar budget. And I think having it should be on the website. So I imagine somebody will tell Nicholas to put it on the website.
Well, Councillor
that was
Boone's
a
right
note to
here.
me.
Maybe that was a hidden note there. Yeah. But so related to that, I was looking at the budget, and this year's budget increase is noted at 9.85 cents, which is a 4.85% increase in the tax rate. Inflation for the calendar year 2022 was also listed on that sheet, and that was 7.10%. So do you support the manager's proposed budget that was presented before council?
To be honest, I was thinking after the last couple of COVID years that we went through, inflation, just everybody's sort of, it's just not a great time to be raising taxes and having a higher budget. I think what I understand, it passed. That's fine. However, I'll remind people that one counselor voted present. He didn't approve the budget. And that gentleman wanted to spend time almost line item checking, reviewing, discussing, just to be sure that overage, that increase was really absolutely necessary. How many pages is it? It's like, wow, are
Probably
you kidding
20.
me?
Yeah,
Plus
between
the-
20 and
yeah.
30, I would say.
It
Yeah.
doesn't matter. I mean, I just felt that everybody should be on board. Everybody should be on board if we're doing this. And vote no, okay, but present means he couldn't vote because he had questions that weren't allowed to be asked or answered. So, I wish we could have level funded it somehow, just to give people a break, just to give residents that's part of what I'm running on, protecting the taxpayer. I've been a taxpayer here for 40 years, and I'm telling you, increase after increase, and it just comes to a time where you have to stop and just say, just like during COVID, we didn't spend money. Well, guess what? How about we didn't need to spend some of that money and give the people a break?
So the next two questions, one's about the TIF district, which is the Tax Increment Finance District, and the next one is going to be on ARPA. So the first one with the TIF district, I did look at the board packet, which was on January 24th, and that did have information about the strategic planning that was going on in the city. One of the tactics that was listed next to it was develop a tax increment financing district strategy and playbook for the city to stimulate infill housing development. And a second bullet that said identify core covenants and requirements for TIF related projects. So the TIF district's been in place since, I want to say, 2012. It's been at least 10 years.
Has it been that long? Yeah.
We actually went to the legislature twice to have the ability to use the funds extended. And there was some discussions about a year ago, which Stephanie Clark was the person that presented a draft parking study for development that was to happen within the downtown. And of course, I don't know any of the conversations that have happened at council since. I didn't see anything in the packet related to TIF districts over the past year. But with that, I mean, the funds are still there that have not been expended. So what projects do you think you would like to see funded within the TIF district? And do you believe that you would be able to address that with council without requesting another extension? Or do you think, something like an extension would be needed?
So
They just extended it, didn't
Yeah,
they?
they did.
Another couple of years?
So they're working on. Tom had actually gone to. I think he went to. I can't remember her name. The one that came here. I can't remember her name.
Stephanie Clark?
No. It was a senator from Burlington that he's friends with, and I can't remember her name. But they are talking about extending it another 2 years.
I think it was 2 years. Yeah, that was That
so
was in the packet.
another 2
yeah.
years in addition to what we just had passed.
Correct.
So that, I guess that answers the second part of the question. So thank you, Michael, for clarifying that. But still, there's that.
Rosemary reminded us too.
Yeah, but there still are funds that would be used during that at least 4-year period. Do you have any ideas of what you'd like to see happen in the downtown with the TIF funds?
Well, I'm sure there's I would guess, some discussion that's been had about it. Certainly development, continues to be critical for us, for our, economic development. And so I would definitely say, I trust we use the TIF to do the spa, the city place and all of that at the time, correct?
We kind of did.
Okay.
Yeah, there was
a lot. Okay.
The property that was where City Place is now, part of
Yes.
it was privately owned. I think
Yes.
it was a $40,000
Right.
purchase.
Mm-hmm.
I probably shouldn't provide those facts or numbers because
Okay,
it might
let's
not be true. But yes, so downtown development has occurred using the TIF district, and
But that's what it's for, correct? So definitely there needs to be some discussion about how to use it, and I would assume I've been kind of impressed a bit with the council as far as these strategic plans and these looking out a few years. So, Michael, maybe you can. Has there been any discussion about how to use it? Or?
If there has been some discussion, it hasn't been in open session,
Okay.
so I
That's
wouldn't be
fine.
able to provide any
Well,
information.
I'm sorry. I know it sounds very general, but
Yeah.
for obvious reasons, we continue to want to do things in the downtown. Obviously, I wish there were ways to get like everybody, get rid of some of our awful-looking storefronts. That's such a hurt for us. And I understand there may be something in the works. That's all I know, and I hope so, because it's really an eyesore, and it's just continues to give the downtown a bad name, even with all the good things going on here.
Mm-hmm. And Michael Deering does mention Newberry's, JJ Newberry's.
Right, that's what I meant.
As a
I
potential.
assumed everybody knew I meant that.
Yeah. So do you mind if I ask one of the questions from the field?
sure.
So Alice Farrell asks, there are many municipal activities that overlap between Barre Town and Barre City, aka the Barres. Water and sewer, the school, the partnership, the Barre area development. Do you have any ideas for strengthening these combined activities? If this was, do you have any ideas on how we can strengthen the combined activities?
Well, I am in total support of Barre area development, totally. And if that seems to be an issue for the town, I'm not sure if that's where Alice was going with that, but certainly, they work for both of us. We need to be, we should be working together on a lot of things. There's no doubt. There's still some people out there that just don't want to talk about it and don't want to have anything to do with it. But we really should be the Barre community. And yes, you live in the town, we live in the city, but this is our common place. And I hope that we can have discussions that will in fact strengthen those ties.
Okay, thank you. So the ARPA question, again, I'm going to go back about a year ago from the January 11th meeting minutes of 2022. Council held an ARPA funding process workshop. Manager McKenzie reviewed his objectives for the workshop and the list of allocations already approved and projects proposed by city councilors and by the staff. There was discussion on maximizing available funding by tapping into other sources such as local options tax revenues, general fund, enterprise funds, capital funds, grants, and bonds. So there's a lot of detail that happened. So just to recap a little bit, the capital improvement plan items were reviewed, the additional funding topics were discussed, and we informally agreed to allocate $1 million for municipal infrastructure, $1 million for housing and $500 for community innovations. Again, it was just a framework that was presented. The manager was going to come back to council with some additional information. When the manager did leave, Councilor Lauzon accurately noted that we actually didn't have an official vote. It wasn't ever saying that 1 million, 1 million, and 5 was to be the outlay, but it triggered that further conversation, which happened. We have the new city manager that's here. Council went through a process, public input. They had surveys. They have information on those. That was a breakup of $1 million, $1 million, and 5. So if you look at it, it's about 60-60. Not 60-60, 40-40-20 to make up 100% of the funds. Do you have kind of a makeup in your mind of what you think the allocations should be? And thinking of it as infrastructure is one for the city and the items that it needs, housing, which is a hot topic button right now, and what was called community innovations. So those projects that were coming in as other items. Do you have an idea of how you'd like to see that be used?
Well, I'd just like to sort of review what happened once we had a new city manager. And we had an in-person forum at Alumni Hall, and it was jam-packed with people screaming for infrastructure improvements, paving, et cetera, et cetera. We did a survey with 309 responses that said housing was the number one topic, and that Downstreet project was the top priority. Now, keep in mind, that was the only choice. I believe housing is an issue. We've been talking about this for years, but especially the last year. Housing crisis is real. But at the time we were talking, I don't mean but, at the time we were talking, it was about people trying to move here to work, to be teachers, to move their families here. It was more the single-family homes that was the real crisis. As far as, I don't know whether I should go into this, my housing information or remarks about the $250,000 for the Ward 5. That project is so worthy of money. That Ward 5 school being redone would be great, okay? But that $250,000 was a gift to the city from the government, along with the whatever the total amount was. Was it 2.5? That a counselor referred to it as everybody's money, and it really is. So I don't think anybody necessarily has an issue with, I'd like to know one, I don't know anybody who doesn't think the Ward 5 school is worthy of the project. It's how we're going to use that $250,000. And there were three counselors at last week's meeting who had issue with it. And those people were not being heard. I mean, they came back with 2 or 3 ideas on how they could buy in to that process, to expending that money to Downstreet. And they weren't listening. Nobody was listening to them. It was like their way or the highway, their agenda or not. And that's what I want to change in Barre. There always has to be some sort of compromise about how we operate. I mean, we all should have the same gumption to do what's best for the city. And it just seems as though if ever we should compromise so that we can all buy into it and feel good about it. I mean, what was wrong with a long-term loan or putting it on the ballot? I looked at the council packet last night. There's the ballot, the ballot questions were included in the packet. We're asking the voters to approve $500 for Barre Area Development Corporation, the people who find businesses to move here, the business BADC that goes after Senator Sanders for almost $6 million in funding. Are you kidding me? And we're asking the voters for $20,000 for that. But we're ready to give away $250 in a drop of a hat. And that's what I don't like. That's what I would likely fight against. Let's all be on the same page. You want to give the money, fine, but let's make it work for everybody and for what's best for the city, the residents. I mean, it really is our money, not the council. And yes, the council has the authority to give it away, or distribute it. But I'm telling you, we have to feel good. We have to take the interests of the taxpayers and the residents in this city, always. Always. So I don't know, Lucas, I think you had a little bit more. I was glad to see we are putting money into the capital improvement plan. Absolutely. But again, we're being asked for $400,000 for paving. I mean, okay, so why can't we put this on the ballot? $250,000 for Ward 5. Let's see if the city wants to pay, the residents want to pay, voters want to pay. I don't know what the
so
other...
just to re-ask the question a little bit differently.
Sorry.
Is there no,
I
that's
went
fine.
off on
I
my
think you
tangent.
did a great job of answering it, but I just wanted to see, is there anything that you think for a project should be included or funded that currently isn't a part of the request that you've seen?
Well, I think we should always, as an example, no. I mean, I think they had 12 or 15 pretty good responses from organizations or residents with some really keen requests, probably for more money than we're going to distribute. I think it's only $200,000 for these extra projects, but you know, they're all viable. I think any new ones, I probably not, but the ones I saw, I thought were very valuable and should definitely be considered.
And the last question I have is that plus delta. Often the delta symbol is used for change, and that's why they call it a plus delta. So, you know, trying to end on a little bit of a positive note. So,
Thanks,
you know,
Lucas.
yeah. No, I mean,
No,
this
I'm
is great.
kidding.
It's getting that information, and I think this is a healthy conversation. But it's also, you know, looking at the things that are going right and the things that can be right if we do some change and make that happen moving forward. So just a top item for you of an item that the city is currently doing well, and a top item for you that you think the city can improve upon if you were to be elected.
Well, I definitely think there should be more support for Barre Area Development, Barre Partnership. Those two entities are selling us. They're selling us to the world, or to, you know, and we need a marketing arm for that. It's a huge job on both entities. So I would be very much in favor, and will totally support both going forward. As doing well, I mean, certainly. Other than Newberry's, the Down Street really is just great. I thought the whole holiday season, I just felt a really true sense of community. I think a lot of people, you know, COVID's done. We brought the group together. There's always a lot food, you know, all the food trucks and Courier Park, and there's so many great things going for us. No doubt. I want to be part of the future solutions to some of the issues that are coming up. So, and I hope, and I feel good about the campaign. I'm working hard, be canvassing the neighborhoods here pretty quick, and hoping to meet a lot of people. Although I'm fortunate, I do know many people, having lived here my whole life. So. It's good to get reacquainted with people and being able to spend time on this. And I thank my family, my husband, for supporting me.
So that's it for the questions. I do want to say thank you for coming in and participating in this. I do wish we were able to have the other individuals running for the different offices be here so we could ask those same questions. I think that way there it would give a contrast and comparison for others to think about. But if there is an opportunity for that, I'm sure, Michael, you'll be able to reach out to me. And I have more questions I can ask. Those were just the ones that I had come up with for today. And it is, I believe, still another month until election. So
It is.
If
Well,
you want me back,
I'm
just
all
let me know.
I'm all about differentiation. That's why I'm sorry my opponent wasn't here tonight, because we have a good cordial relationship, and I thought it would be good for us to both talk about where we differ, or because I think that always describes and defines a campaign or where you stand on things. So I'm sorry he didn't come in.
So I want to take the center stage just for a minute, because there is something that's a hot topic that just was posted today on the Times-Argus website and will be running in tomorrow's newspaper. And I know it's a conversation that Lucas is familiar with, being on city council as the mayor. It's the Wheelock building. And Lucas was on council when we did our first, look at whether or not we should do anything with it, meaning should we sell it? And at the time we determined that it's really a good place for the partnership, and possibly a little teen center in the back. But either way, it was, the partnership just fit perfectly in there. According to the news article that Dave Delcor wrote on the timesargus.com, highly recommend people get a subscription. They're not a supporter of ours, but they should be. Dave had done some research, obviously, and he found out that so the city council ended up deciding to cut the lease for the Barre partnership, telling them that they will have to move out in 2 or 3 months from now. Then earlier this month, we had a conversation about selling the Wheelock building, and we made a motion. I voted no on it, and Councilor Lozon was not there. Relatively quickly afterwards, according to the newspaper article, Wheelock House LLC was created by Councilor Lozon, and it looks like it's an attempt to do what they did for the People's Health and Wellness
Yes.
Clinic, where it's on the tax rolls. It was created in the name of the health and wellness, and he got a bunch of people that were going to get together and actually support the project and push it forward, and did some significant renovation to it. And it looks like that's he's gonna try to do with this building as well. And then it would be in the partnership's
And it
hands.
was very successful up there.
It was.
So
Yeah. The question that I have after giving that prep to it would be, what is your thoughts on, one, selling the Wheelock building, knowing now that there's a possibility that the partnership might be able to acquire that building. I guess, what is your thoughts about that whole situation?
Well, I witnessed the discussion and the vote that evening when the city manager mentioned that they were going to sell the building. And the Barre Partnership representatives were at the meeting and came to the table requesting, a little time. I think their lease is up in May. Requesting a little time to see if they could, number one, acquire the money to buy it, and could they have first right of refusal. Now, keep in mind, this is the Barre Partnership. Does everyone know what a partnership is? I do. A partnership means you are supporting your partner. the council refused their request for first right of refusal. And they just basically said, no, we're going to a realtor, and there you go. So I'm particularly pleased to hear this news that I haven't read that you just described. I think it's fantastic. I hope it works. The Barre Partnership should be in the heart of the city. We need the Barre Partnership. The Barre Partnership they were the ones, Tracy Lewis, the board, whoever, Shannon, they created a magical holiday season. And that's what they bring, and along with everything else. Don't get me wrong, the Heritage Festival, Courier Park, I mean, they do so much. But to have them in the heart of the city is just, I mean, that's where they belong, and in that beautiful building. And so I hope it works. I hope it works. I hope the city accepts their whatever offer was made.
This year was.
I'm sorry?
This year was pretty spectacular.
Oh, it was.
And it was like the huge amount of peace that was brought to the really long, horrendous storm that we just endured. And it was awesome. This was the best year by far in a really long time. And part of what made it that, though, was, I think, the work that everybody put in, the volunteers.
Yes, absolutely.
And people out putting up the lights and seeing all in the pouring rain and the wind and everybody that just really came together to make it work and happen, and all the work that Tracy did to make sure that the funding was there to replace all the old stuff. It was really nice. It was something we really needed it.
We did, and I think it came across loud and clear. I hope that people. I mean, anything I saw on Facebook was only positive, and it was just awesome. I commend her and the Barre Partnership for really, really making it special.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and we had a question about when did we so technically we didn't tell them to get out. We just didn't extend their lease, which means that once your lease is expired.
Yeah, I didn't say that, did I?
No, I did.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I did. I'm the one that said that, and I was just correcting the record.
All right.
And that was done, I think, in December. We had discussed, increasing the lease, and the decision was to not kick them out, but it discontinue the lease 2 months before the Barre Heritage Festival. That's my own bitterness, which is not very nice.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm sorry.
Doesn't feel good.
It doesn't. Anyway, so we'll kick it back to Lucas. And Raylene, do you have any follow-up conversation or questions or?
Well, today, since I was here as a moderator, I'll just keep my comments as that moderating piece, not giving information one way or the other.
Yeah, that was wrong of me. I'm
sorry.
No,
that's fine. But with that, I will note that I am also a former member of the board for the Barre Partnership. So I also, for today at least, no comments on those actions.
And the only thing that I would like to say in regards and to Rosemary and in regards to what I know about you thus far, we've only met a couple of times. We've had the opportunity to be together a couple of times. In all of those times, I just want to say have been because of your dedication to the city, that you've been down here helping to hang the lights. You were here for Christmas for kids and counting the wet money, and so
never done that before.
You're not quite keeping up with Michael Deering, but
no,
the little Bob
Hard
Dole
act
of
to follow.
the city, but pretty close. It's nice to see you whenever I seem to be at some sort of function, something very community related, that you're always there, you're always helping, and So thank you for that.
Well,
That's
thanks.
what I've gotten to know you for thus far.
Right. Thank you. Thanks. Well, I have a couple other things too. I mean, do we have time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
At as much time as you want.
That I'm running on also is, where we have 2021 homeless people living in our community outside. And, I'm all for the warming center. I think it's absolutely something we should do. I'm not crazy about it being at the library. I think we could hopefully, maybe some of this money, Lucas, find a permanent warming center for them so that they'll have a place to go that they'll always feel is theirs, and they don't have to, leave when the library opens. Also, I on Aired Out recently, you had Erica on as the homelessness task force leader, and I think she could expand how she communicates with a lot of people. I mean, there's a lot of people gathering information. I know Pastor Dan, but I don't really know how to reach him. I know Erica, and I could, but I don't have access to her Facebook page. So I think it would be great if she just did and I would be glad to help her do it, is create a homelessness page. Everybody goes there. They know what's needed. They know what's going on. They what's needed today. And it just seemed like it would be a clearer, more succinct way to communicate about their needs, including the emergency services. When we had that terrible storm a few weeks ago, that came up as an issue that these people, the homeless, didn't really know where to go, what to do. So we definitely should bring them into the emergency management function for sure. For sure. Other than that, I don't know. I guess that's about it. I just want to serve the city. I love my city. I love our city, and I have the time. I have the love, and I just want to be part of it. So I want to help Ward 2. Again, 40 years I've lived there, and in my beautiful home. And I'm just happy. I'm happy to be running. I'm getting good vibes, and I hope you'll consider voting for me. And more importantly, if you have any questions about anything about my past, who I am, what I stand for, if I haven't described it tonight, I hope you'll reach out to me. At least give me the consideration to answer the questions. I'm happy to. Not afraid of anything. I believe in myself, and I believe I can work hard for you. So thank you.
And I'm going to drop your Facebook page in the chat. Want to say thank you to Lucas for
Thank you, Lucas.
traversing in from Northfield to come and ask some questions of Rosemary. And
Not a
of
problem.
course-
Barre is still like my second home, and I come over here frequently. So,
Well, you're going to move back one of these days and then run for mayor, right?
Well, I was just back here actually yesterday.
You didn't say no,
to
folks.
Go to Mulligan's in order to watch the Chiefs game. So,
And you must still come to the Legion and stuff.
well, I do every once in a
Yeah.
while. My membership is now over in Northfield. That's why I was saying I've started a cribbage league over there on Wednesdays.
Which would be really cool here. I'm just saying.
Yeah,
I love cribbage.
And that's something, if I can give a plug, if you are a descendant of somebody who is in the military, then you are eligible to be either an SAL member or an auxiliary individual. And if you are a person in the military yourself or were and have retired, you're also eligible to be a Legionnaire. So come on down. And if you're not from Barre and you're watching this, there is a Legion near you. We're probably one of the best kept secrets around the entire country about being members and supporting veterans and making sure that they have the supports they need. one program in particular is just called Buddy Checks. We're in that time of year where it's cold out. It's not so bright out right now. People are older and home, and anyone that you can think of that might need a call just to check in. That's what it just means. Check in on people, make sure they're doing okay. Veterans have a higher rate of suicide than any other group, so we just wanted to make sure that we were doing it for those veterans as part of the organization. But
That's
really,
awesome.
just reach out to anybody. If you haven't heard from them in a while, check in on them, making sure that they have what they need.
And here's my plug for them all. They always have community events going on, dinners that are open to the public, different bingos, different things like that. Support them. Go out.
We are so fortunate.
It means a lot to
these
them.
clubs doing all these dinners, and it's just really amazing.
And it all goes back. And so it's a extremely good way that you can invest in people that have invested literally their lives for you. So
Yeah, it's not the only club around here either. I mean, the Lions Club does a great job. They were filling packets of food to make sure that they could be distributed to those in need just this past weekend. And then you have the other clubs like Kiwanis, the Mutua,
VFW.
the VFW. And they're all there. So
And active, which is great. I mean, it's just really terrific. We're really
But we want to keep them
fortunate.
that way.
Yeah.
So we gotta get those.
that's right.
All right. Well, Lucas, thank you for joining us. Just out of curiosity, because you mentioned the Chiefs, what's the official group of Barre City Council, or the official team?
I don't think there is one anymore. We did have some debate many years ago, but we haven't voted on it.
I'm pretty sure that although it doesn't bind a future council, I do believe that the vote stands.
Well, there was one vote one year that we actually supported 3 different groups because of the makeup of council. So you'd have to go
I'm
back
not going
and
to lie
check
to you. I know nothing about football. I just like messing with you.
Yes, but the Chiefs are headed to the Super Bowl, so go Chiefs.
Congratulations. Once again, want to say thank you for coming down. And Raylene, obviously, thank you.
Thank you.
And Rosemary, thank you for joining us on
Thank
the Barre
you for
Beat.
asking me. I've arrived in my life. I've been on the Barre Beat.
I know, right?
If I don't,
and it was
hopefully
actually
I won't get beat down, huh?
it was a rather large attended show tonight. We had up to 22 people that I saw, and Raylene sees different metrics than I do, so she'll definitely see that. But I do want to say thank you. And
thank you very much, Michael.
You're welcome. And thank you for those that are watching the Barre Beat podcast live from Fly on the Wall Productions here, Main Street, Barre, Vermont. I hope you guys all have a lovely evening and catch us next week.
Yeah. Ciao.